With around 11 to 12 days left in the transfer window, I want to ask you guys, do you think we'll be able to get Alexander Isak over the line? Do you think Newcastle will finally change their stance and let Alexander Isak go free where he wants to go? Because last night we had that bombshell of an Instagram story from Alexander Isak saying that the relationship is broken. And to come out publicly like that, to say that he doesn't see a way back into this Newcastle team, I thought was the biggest moment in this saga so far, in terms of saying, yeah, we're on the brink of this getting done. Because Liverpool on our end, we know what it will take to get this deal over the line. We just need Newcastle to open the doors, because the reality is they have more of the negotiating power here. And if there's any Newcastle fans watching this too, let me know your thoughts. But I do agree that Newcastle, because he has 3 years left, technically they can say, no, we're forcing you to stay, whether you like it or not. So let's see how all this unfolds. I honestly am starting to get really tired of this saga, just because, as crazy as it sounds, because this is obviously would be a British record transfer fee, and he's an elite player who no one in world football wouldn't want this kind of player in your team, obviously. But the reality is it kind of feels like a luxury signing for us. And the reason I say that is because I don't see us struggling to score goals this season. I don't. Hugo Ekitike has started off brilliantly. I think of all the striker signings, you look at Gyökeres, Benjamin Sesko, Joao Pedro this weekend, Hugo Ekitike has really stood out more than I think all of those. And that makes me very confident that if he's our starting striker this season, that he will deliver, as he's shown. For me, he was our best attacker in the first game against Crystal Palace and our best attacker in the second game against Bournemouth. So I have full faith in Hugo Ekitike already, and that front three of Mohamed Salah, Hugo Ekitike, and Cody Gakpo is very, very strong. So it just feels crazy that we're going through this crazy saga and willing to spend this crazy amount of money for Alexander Isak, when, again, he would feel like a bit of a luxury signing. I know we need definitely other forwards, because we've sold Darwin, we've sold Lucho, we've recently sold Ben Doak, we've lost, through tragedy, Diogo Jota. That's 4 attackers. We do need some attacking reinforcement, but this Alexander Isak deal looks so difficult to get over the line, and I almost feel like, to a large part, this is the Newcastle's owners trying to put out a statement to say, nah, we won't get bullied. We won't get bullied in the transfer market, and it almost feels like it's more stubbornness than anything else. I mean, that, accompanied by the fact that they can't get in any striker replacement signings, and it looks like right now they're pushing for Wisa, but I'm not even sure they're going to get that over the line, because Brentford are asking for 50 to 60 million pounds. It looks like Newcastle don't want to spend more than 40 million pounds. So they just can't seem to recruit. But what I will say, and Newcastle fans, let me know if I'm wrong, because trust me, I do have some empathy for you, because if I put myself in your shoes, I understand this sucks, the situation for you, more than us, because like I said, for us, it feels like a luxury signing. For you, it's unsettling the whole squad. So it's much bigger than what's happening on our side of things, right? So I really do feel for you. But if you keep hold of him, I'm just saying, already you're struggling to get signings over the line, right? You're struggling to get signings over the line. If I'm a player now and a potential top player, who you can bring in, who can take those next steps to become one of the best, like you've done, like Bruno, like Tonali, like Isak has done at Newcastle, I don't want to join Newcastle, because I'd be worried of getting in a similar situation. You have to trust Alexander Isak's word now, who's come out publicly. He said way before the season ended that he wanted to leave. David Ornstein said so too. And if that's true, and you have to, now that he's come out publicly, he wouldn't be lying to the public like this, then the reality is promises have been broken. And if I'm a potential gonna be a top player in the future and go to Newcastle for the project, I don't want to go there, because then I tell myself, wait, so in 2 years' time, if a Real Madrid come knocking, a Barcelona or a Liverpool, they're gonna block me from going? Do you know what I'm saying? And that the club is incapable of bringing in any replacements. I'm just saying, I think that's more detrimental to Newcastle than anything else, because I don't see how you land top targets anymore, knowing that this is like your public reputation. It really is. So I don't know if in the end, because I do think if Newcastle force Isak to stay, as dramatic as it looks now, I think in 1 month's time, 2 months' time, eventually he would play for them again, just because he wouldn't not want to play football. He'll love football too much and he'll miss it too much to not play. And then we'll see, maybe he'd leave next summer or something. But I still think keeping a player around like that, who has now come out publicly, who said the trust has been broken, promises have been broken. I think that has a snowball effect that's much bigger than a single player. And I think what was so beautiful about Newcastle last season, and if you look at my reaction after the Carabao Cup final, I held my hands and I was like, Newcastle were the better side. You absolutely deserve to win that game. And I think the reason you won games against the top six is because of the unity within the team, how you played, the togetherness. That's what made you so difficult to play against, because of the fight and the hunger and the fact that you weren't really a team of stars, but you were a very good team that fought, and gave it everything. But I think this whole Isak saga can have a real detrimental impact on that togetherness, that specific togetherness that I think made that Newcastle side so difficult to play against last season, that led to you having such a great season. But honestly, I just don't know what happens from here. Let me know how you think it's now going to unfold. Like I said, there's about 11, 12 days left. What's for sure is Newcastle will not sell before we face them on Monday night. There's no doubt about that. On Monday night, they're not going to want Alexander Isak available for Liverpool. That 0% chance, right? If this happens, this deal will happen towards the very end of the window, because Newcastle know that'd be the least advantage to Liverpool too, because then he needs some weeks to get adjusted to the team and everything else. So he would miss, the first 5-6 games of the season, so we'll have to see what transpires on that end. But as I think about that game on Monday night, you guys, it's gonna be like Galatasaray Fenerbahce. It's gonna be like Turkish football atmosphere. It's gonna be absolutely wild at St. James Park. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff too. So Newcastle fans are going to be in the pubs before they're going to arrive, and the noise, I think it could set records for craziest Premier League atmosphere, because of the level of hate from Newcastle to Liverpool right now. This whole Isak saga and how much that's kind of led to fumes in their fan base, So I'm kind of not I'm looking forward to it, but also not looking forward to it, because I just really, really hope it doesn't transpire to any injuries for us, because I can see Joe Linton going in with tackles and all the rest. So let's see what ends up happening there. But yeah, like I said, for sure they won't sell us Isak before Monday, I think. No chance. But I do have to say, as each day goes on, I get less confident about Isak happening, just because it just means there's less of a chance of Newcastle bringing in their striker replacements. Remember, they also let go of Callum Wilson, and they couldn't get any of the others over the line. So it would kind of take a miracle, I think, because they've been linked to other players like Strand Larson from Wolves. I think for them to sell in the final days of the window, they'd ask for ludicrous money, and rightfully so, because you don't want to sell one of your star attackers like 2 to 3 days before the window closes, when you obviously can't get a replacement in. It just, I don't see how realistically that happens. The one I can see happening is Wissa, because he's also forcing his way out of Brentford, and they've signed a replacement. So that I can see happening. But would Newcastle be willing to let Isak go if they just brought in Wissa? I'm not so sure, because like I said, they also let go of Callum Wilson, and so they basically only have one striker who they can rely on in the Premier League. So I honestly don't know what's going to end up happening, and I do get a bit worried, because the later this happens, also the more difficult it makes it for us to go for plan B options. And I'm not even sure that we have plan B options for a striker, at least, because it seems like the way we go about our business, like you saw last summer with Zubimendi, we have an opportunity we see in the market with one player who we see really elevating the team because of his ability, right? And it seems like, and I learned this from last summer, if we don't get that plan A option that we see as being this outstanding talent like Martin Zubimendi last summer, and we didn't end up landing him, so we didn't go for anybody else, so we gave Gravenberg his opportunity, which ended up working out very well. But I think it could be the same with Alexander Isak. If we don't land him this summer, that we just wait till next summer to go big on him, and instead we go for a versatile attacker like a Malik Fofana, the Belgian winger from Lyon. That I could see happening. But us going big on a striker, I think we'd probably wait till January or the summer, like when, Southampton weren't willing to sell Virgil. We ended up waiting till January when those doors kind of opened a bit more. I could see that happening if we don't lend him this summer, like I said, because it seems like for us, he's the one that we see elevating the team from here to there because of his elite ability. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be real interesting to see how all this transpires. I was at like 80% confident before it gets done this summer. Now I'm much lower, probably 20 to 30%, to be honest, because of everything that happened, and mainly because it seems like Newcastle are incapable of signing a striker. But let me know your thoughts in the building. Liverpool fans, Newcastle fans, let me know. And let's see, fingers crossed we are able to get it over the line, but let's see. Not much time left in the window now.